think you ought to know. About men's radio. The place where men and women really speak. Oh man, what a show. It's men's radio. This crazy show is on 3 times a week. Now Russ and Phil are there to help with all your cares. We laugh, we cry, we talk like grown-ups do. But if you're sad and low, it won't cost you no dough. Men's radio, that's the place for you. With Russ Kane and Phil Dave.
And it's just gone midday.
Look at you, Mr. Antibiotics. Tell everybody. First of all, I'm Russ Kane. That's Phil Dave. This is the Daily Show, exclusive to Men's Radio Station, going out on every single social media platform and everywhere.
We're hunting you down step by step.
We will find, if you listen to a mental health radio station, we will find you and we will broadcast to you. But if you do not listen, anyway, go on. So how are you feeling? Not good, by the looks of things.
Well, thanks to Bog Roll. Okay,
well
look,
yeah, it's my pleasure. That's why
let's put it this way. I would say that in response to your question, I am better than I was. Yeah. I'm better than I was about a week ago.
Yeah, if you weren't any better, we'd be visiting you in Bushy.
Is this thanks?
Better than that.
I feel really optimistic today. I clearly look terrible, and now you're saying if any better, you'd be in Bushy. For God's sake, man, what are you trying to do? Just sign the warrant now. I'll be done with it.
Don't be done. No. I'm pretty sure. Well, you've had a very bad chest infection.
It is true.
Phil was little. He had pneumonia, and it's left him with a weak chest. Got a weak
it is true,
well, but we don't talk about it. Right. Good afternoon. Says Lauren Lorenzo. Sounds like a film star from the late 50s, early 60s.
Double L to her friends.
Lauren Lorenzo is a great name, isn't it? Paul Claridge. Good afternoon. I'm back. Finally, a day off work. How is the world of DIY going to cope without you, Paul Claridge? Dashing I'm letting you rest your throat. God, it's early.
So what's your excuse every other week?
Elizabeth Green talking to God there in New York, in United States of America. Azadon Brown in the northeastern states of the United States. Good day to you. Robert Van Buren, great friend of Phil, of Neil Long, and that gang over in the New Malden gang. Hello, Russ and Phil.
I was going to say, he's such a good friend, I didn't remember.
No. He's not a friend of yours. He's a huge friend of Neil's. And Julie Voice, who is over in Houston, Texas. Hello, guys. I done so much packing and lifting. I've injured my back and I can't move. Cheer me up. Well, Julie, let me cheer you up immediately, because you're making the enormous mistake of leaving the fabulous state of Texas in the United States and coming back to Britain, which is finished. So I've cheered you up. There you are. You're going to come back and go.
What's wrong with you today? Do you know people try and watch this show to try and help levels of depression?
I'm helping them by
not to go plunge further into the abyss. So far, you have threatened that I look awful because of illness, which is fine.
Fair enough.
Excellent. Secondly, you have implied that I'm one step away from the underground, and I don't mean the trains either.
I mean the Jubilee line.
No, I mean worm food. And thirdly, you've now started sort of saying to Julie that
I have been telling Julie, who I've never met, I've said to her, please don't come back.
Look, excuse me, there you go. Look, wow, thanks, Russ. You see, look, you're upsetting people today. What's wrong with you?
I don't want Julie Voice coming back and saying, you never told me what it was really like to be here in London.
I think we tell people most weeks on this show.
Sam Monroe, you cheeky Cypriot swine. Russ speaking Welsh again. Isn't it incredible? Just for a second, for a sec. Absolute disaster. 18 to 20,000 people affected, killed in this horrendous natural disaster. Sen's family's okay, which is a miracle. His friends and family had to leave, but they're okay. No one was injured, which is great. Phew, right? And yet, does that take the headlines? It just doesn't. It doesn't. People are immune to it. Absolutely immune to it.
Look, they are, but at the same time, those of us who do give a hoot, I have to say that I always struggle with situations like this for a couple of reasons. Number one is I believe that I know that, and this is going to sound wrong because I'm sort of implying what else can they do? But if you, no, I know, but the problem is that if you have a disaster like this, one of the first things people do is raise money. They send money.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, every penny counts. Yeah, I think so far the appeal has raised, I read on the headlines, £30 million so far.
What does the government of these places do?
Amazing amount of money.
What don't get me wrong. Governments of these places do?
Well, a very valid question, but here's my problem. Is I think a lot of people give money to pacify themselves. They have guilt, and therefore to appease that guilt, they will send money. And it's almost it's almost done for the wrong reason. Do what's done?
I hear you, but what are they guilty about? Oh, seriously?
No, not guilty of anything. No, they're not guilty of anything. But a lot of people, I think that what happens is they have this feeling of guilt, and therefore to appease that, they send money. To me, I'm not going. I don't bury my head in the sand of this. Okay, there's very little I can do to help. Very little, short of actually getting up and going over to Turkey to try and help in the effort.
With a spade and gardening.
But I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I'll be perfectly honest with you, and that's not my stick, and that's not what I'm going to do. And I feel like a lot of the time that people hide behind the impression that they need to sort of be drowning in sorrow about it, or that they need to give the impression that they are somehow that they are personally affected by it. And it annoys me with situations like this. The truth of the matter is a lot of people don't give a hoot. Wrong, completely wrong, but a lot of people don't. And I find it's almost like people use natural disasters to make themselves look better. And that's what I don't like. It's a real horrible world.
The only person who was affected would be Sen, because he's got, loads and loads of relatives, him coming from that part of the world. So he's got his relatives, he's got his friends. It's like, he has every reason, right, and absolutely, 100%. Not knowing until he heard from everybody if they were alive or dead.
But therein lies the difference. Is that Sen is actually one of the few
there's a
who
huge
is
difference.
Personally affected.
That's where his family lives.
Exactly.
There's a huge bloody difference. You're living
that's
in
the whole
New
point.
Malden,
Is that Sen is someone who clearly is affected by the horrible things that we're witnessing in Turkey. And by the way, actually, the one time I've been to Turkey, I flaming loved it. I thought it was a beautiful country. And I'm very, very sad.
It's the same for me. Something happened to I got one of my kids and family is over in Texas now. If something happened to Texas, I'd be hugely affected. If there was whatever it was. Of course I would. It would not be, what's the word I'm saying? It would not be a theoretical thing for me. It would be something that was like, oh my God, are they okay? The kid's all right. So,
but it's quite unedifying, the fact that we live in a world where people think they need to respond to a disaster like this in a certain way.
I've got to interrupt you because suddenly sensuality has broken through. You need to explain this, boy. Francoise Pascal, that hunk of French magnificence, says this: Phil, so glad you're better. I bet my rubbing did the trick. Bet her rubbing did the trick. Explain.
Well, Francoise Pascal, the living legend that is,
she is
very, very kindly offered.
Yes.
When I sort of announced that I had a chest infection on social media, she very kindly offered to assist me with applying some Vicks.
Did she?
Yes. Now I didn't take her up on the offer. No, I didn't take her up on the offer only because that you see the thing
she's
is
all woman.
Well, no, I figured
you alive.
Well, I figured that it would be slightly disrespectful to only assume that Francois is sort of capable of that, because I haven't seen her for a long time, and if I suddenly said yes to that invitation, it wouldn't look very good. So, but I would very much like to see Francois hopefully soon.
Francoise Pascal, one of the most beautiful women on the planet, says, "Let me come round and rub Vic on your chest," and you go, "No, I'm not sure. What should I? God, I give up." Sen from North. Sen, this is coming in from northeastern United States. Sen Monroe, I'm sending my sincerest and warmest thoughts to you and your family. That's very, very sweet of you. Now, Phil is right. This is the point. I don't know how we got onto this thing, but here we go. Paul Claridge, Phil is right. Look at the BBC News. I'm trying to save your throat because I know it's a bit.
Thank you.
Phil is right. Look at the BBC News website. Right. In the most read section, the disaster in Turkey doesn't get a look in. That's because nothing's happened in Israel that they can criticise. Leslie Demise.
Allegedly.
Right. Do you want me to? Are you feeling up to reading this, or do you want me to?
I can go for it. It's all good.
Sure? Okay.
Lovely Demise says sending money is actually more helpful than sending goods. The roads in much of the affected area are impassable. Goods trucks can't get through. Money will enable those helping to purchase medicines and necessities within Turkey. Also, Phil, please remember there are a lot of Turkish people living here and pan-Europe, as well as many expats living in Turkey. No, I think, again, so Lovely Demise, you misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I don't want people to help. On the contrary, far from it. I think the fact that we've, as an effort, the fact that £30 million has been raised, I think is incredible. And it actually goes to show, by and large, people are very generous. However, what I worry about is that when these situations are used to make someone else look like they're suffering when they don't know the meaning of the word suffering. I've always thought it. I've always had a major issue with it. And I don't know what the answer is.
I want to put, because Sen flicks in and out. And I'm going to put a comment up now that is just such a freaking example of the bullshit world we live in. It makes me furious. It makes me sad. And I'm not surprised. And I'm going to read this out. Bearing in mind that this is only relevant that it's Sam Monroe because his family and relatives live out there. Right? I read some comments about how Turkey is apparently paying the price for their past crimes, that it was karma. I asked the person who's Russian, did he look at what Stalin did, Hitler or Carthage? Or, karma. What is with people? What is with people? That is brutal. That is brutal. So that goes back to thinking, it's 2023. What? God looks down, mythical man in the sky, after he's had a cup of tea with Father Christmas and the
or according to the church this week, he could be a woman.
Well, I'm not even going to go into
that. It could actually be gender neutral.
I'm not even going to give it airtime because it's such bullshit. I can't even be bothered to. I don't care. Do what you want. I don't care. I mean,
of course,
we're allowed.
Of course, it could be gender fluid as well. I mean, of course, I remember the days when gender fluid actually meant that you'd go to a bar and you'd have a few drinks, and that's what you'd produce afterwards. But let's not dwell on that.
Sen says, I wonder who recently tried to set off a bomb in Istanbul are happy at what they're seeing. Terrorists and terrorists. That's what they are. That's why they're called terrorists. They want to cause terror and fear. That's what they do. God looks down, says Russ. As Russ looks down, are you on drugs, Paul? Again? What are you talking about? God looks down. I don't understand that at all.
No idea. Don't get that. I'm afraid.
Go back to work, Paul. You're better off. With all the screws and hammers and nails and ratchets and everything.
I think he was more coherent when he used to risk getting beaten up by Eastern European gangs.
He was much more articulate when you're having the crap beaten out of him every day outside East Croydon Station. I think we need to go back to those days, Paul. You were more entertaining. Be honest with you. Much more entertaining. Wasn't any good for you, but it was great for us. I'll be honest with you. Have a good day, says Sue. I'm hoping to meet up with your boy next week at some point because I know he's in London, down from Scotland, and it'd be lovely to see him. He's been so supportive to men's radio station and women's radio station. Sue Sleet, you have a lovely day as well. This thing, and I wasn't actually going to get into it, but funny enough, the comment about how Turkey's paying the price because it's karma. I mean, Jesus, what do? They consult the entrails of a dove before they go out and see what kind of day they're going to have. Just this bullshit medieval crap. Stop it. It's 2023. Wake up, grow up, stop it. It's nonsense.
It may be. You see, now here's the thing, okay? I understand completely when you say it's nonsense. Of course, we know, right? Those who've got a level head recognize it's nonsense. Although, where does the line cross, though? Because there are some who genuinely, for whatever reason, will take comfort out of belief systems and things like that. And actually,
fine. Just don't shove it down.
No, I agree. But here's the thing. If someone believes in something that offers them some sort of comfort and ultimately helps towards their mental health, I think it's a bit of a dichotomy. It's a bit of a strange one for us, because we should never be encouraging anyone to do something that could potentially go against their mental health. But at the same time, if it starts to affect others, where's the line? What do we do?
Here's the line. Here's the line. Then we've got some fantastic comments coming in. You guys are on fire today, all over the world, America and Scotland, and fabulous. Thank you. You are the show. Here's where the line is. If, let's say, religion.
Michael Verby is in Costa. Oh no, Costa del Sol. Sorry.
He's getting the coffee. What's your name? Michael. Stephen. It's Michael. It's Mike. How do you spell that? Same as it's been spelled for the last 3,000 years. It's just put down Mike.
And then it comes that Mick, with M-Y-K-A-L.
M-Y-K-U-L. Michael. I was talking about Michael. Michael and Stacey Verby. It's so weird. I haven't seen them since they were kids, because their dad was best friends with my dad. It's so sweet. Darling, Costa del Sol, when it's rainy, it's just miserable as hell. This is what I was going to say. Then I'm going to go. Let's go through some of these fantastic comments. I guess this is, you asked the question, you posited the question, where do you draw the line? This is where you draw the line, I think, because I can't be prescriptive about it. I'm just a bloke, right? If you got a religious belief and that gets you, as Lennon said, whatever gets you through the night, marvelous, fantastic. If you then need to feel better, I'm choosing my words carefully, I hope, because you impose that religious belief on other people who don't share it, but it makes you feel better, you've crossed a line. You've crossed a line. That's just my view.
I know. I agree. This is what I think. I think
that they won't see it like that. But
this is the problem.
Converting people through violence or through terror or through whatever is but I do think, but I do think, though, to be fair, that is a limited number. Religious extremists are not the mainstream. So most people who have religion, okay, they will have in a peaceful and measured capacity. The problem is you always hear about the ones who are extreme, and that's why people associate religions with those extremisms. You can even look at it as something like the situation in Israel. The reason I think a lot of people hate Jews is because they see what goes on with the Israeli government and they tarnish Jews as a standard with that, with that association, which is ridiculous. This is distinctly possible. But even so, but that's exactly my point, is that this is kind of what happens, is that unfortunately people get an impression of religion or a belief, and then it sort of sticks. Right, let's whack through some of these. I saw Greeks and Turks, Christians and Jews as humans being humane, no matter what race. So why does it take such tragedy to bring out the best? Did I say the worst in people? I don't think it does, actually. I don't actually. Oh, I don't know. You can find. I just think we don't hear about it. We stopped some horrible bullying. Saw some horrible bullying at the bus stop yesterday. It was disgusting. We stepped in. Well, the guy in front of me stepped in, and I was on standby. I'll go into it in a second. It was vile. It was vile. No. It was horrible. It was horrible. Azadon Brown, Samurai, unbelievable. I can hardly believe the egregious nature of some individuals. Don't give these individuals any room in your mind. Yeah, don't let them live rent free. That's what I say. Coming in from New York, I love Turkey. Well, at Christmas, I don't like it's dry. Oh, I love Turkey. It was there last summer.
No, it's Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, and great people. And Phil, it's only a twisted dichotomy of thought. It is right. So bullying. It is. I can't help it though. I know it's really frustrating because religion offers comfort to some, but it seems to cause conflict to others. And I don't think it's a coincidence that as we move towards a world where there's less and less religion, mental health is through the roof. I don't think that's a coincidence. I had lunch with one of my oldest and dearest friends yesterday, and the conversation, we reminisce a little bit about the past because we've been pals since 1973 and had none of the adventures that we've had are ever repeatable. But we're looking to the future. I can't remember them. No, trust me, we can remember every single one of them. Most of them were disgustingly fabulous. Anyway, that's not the point. we're looking to the future, and you're saying that without religion, people have been, Phil's blowing his nose in case you're wondering. Without religion, people don't have somewhere. So you could get some comfort going to synagogue, going to church, going to the mosque, wherever you might do. And that gives you some sort of comfort. It gives you, what's the phrase I'm looking at? I guess spiritual nourishment. That's okay. That's a good thing. And without it, you think, well, I don't know, where am I going? What's my guidelines? Because we're led by idiots. We're led by incompetent people. No one knows what they're doing. It's a fact. We know that. We can feel it. We're adults. And the people who listen to Men's radio station, especially the Daily Show, you know, you've all been round the block. This isn't your first rodeo. You can smell BS from a mile away. You know it. And so it's...
I don't know why I had to come back into shot as soon as you said you can smell BS a mile off, but never mind.
It was either that or Vic.
It's very bad timing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So the thing is, so we were saying, the other thing is that in the future, I don't believe there will be any jobs.
Steve Jobs has been dead a while.
You're an absolute idiot, and I cannot take this anymore. Paul Pershing.
No, seriously, hang on. Why do you think there won't be any jobs? I'm confused.
Oh, why? Automation.
Yeah.
AI. It's a fact. I mean, it's just AI. There's a thing which is sneaking in, which people are fascinated by. If you don't know about it, I'll give you a very, very quick parachute view of it. Helicopter view. It's a thing called chat. Oh, Christ, what's it called?
Chatbot.
Chatbot. It's like a chatbot. And you download the system. And say you want to write a letter to I want to write a letter to Phil and buy his house or something. I'm doing a stupid thing. I say, write letter to Phil Dave. This is that. I put in a few details. They write the perfect legal letter. They can write novels. They won't be Anthony Horowitz. No, they won't be Janice Hallett. No. But they could do this AI. And the other thing the AI does is it writes programs. It writes software programs. Think about that. It writes the software programs, not a person. The artificial intelligence is writing its own software programs for other software programs. You don't think this needs... Jesus. Anyway, here we go. In Croydon, there was any threat of violence from knuckle-dragging drunken morons. And partly, the only threat is someone being irate because cost run out of oat milk. That's fantastic.
If that isn't a snapshot of 2023 Britain, I don't know what is.
Let's dash to Spain. Chrissy Richards, hi both. Just having kidney beans, sausages, and gravy. I love it all. Could you leave the kidney beans on the side? They don't like me, Chrissy. I'll be honest. I quite like them. They hate me. That sounds delicious.
You thought we'd forgotten.
We haven't forgotten. What have we got? Humour and hope kept people going. I think that's right. Hang on. Oh, she's back. Wait a minute. Vix smells nice.
I guess.
Paul Andrews. Hi, Paul. But isn't the comfort the company of others? It depends who they are, Paul.
I'm going to say, there speaks a man who's never met my family.
Neither will I at this bloody rate. Jesus, how many times are we going to cancel? Granted, the mythically reassurance helps a bit, but I think most of the comfort comes from friendship's the greatest thing ever. Friendship's the most important thing ever. It's the most important thing, you know. And the important thing is to know who your real friends and people who just want shit from you. People just want stuff. I'd rather people were just honest and say, this is a business thing. I just want stuff from you. Okay, we all know where we are. We can deal with it. Emma Webb, hi, Em. BS never, ever smells nice. You're damn right. What we got? What we got here? Scroll up.
Russ,
please.
Scroll up, please.
What are we scrolling up?
What's he doing? Is he performing a circus? Scroll up.
Oh, here we go.
Oh,
here we go. You read this.
Seth Monroe says, one of my English-speaking Turkish friends, after being pulled out of the debris, said that all he could think of was changing his name. Oh, please. Really? Amazing. Changing his name to Barney Rubble as he'd spent 40 plus hours covered under his now demolished home. Christ. Oh my God. Ugh. Wow.
Can you imagine for 1 second, just for 1 second, what the hell it must be like? You're minding your own business. Boom. Your home collapsed. I can't wrap my head around that at all.
That's incredible. 40 plus hours. That's nearly 2 days under rubble. Come on. That's mad.
Well, but they got him out. Am I embarrassing you, Phil?
Francois Pascal, you could never embarrass me.
It is a sad place out there. Love both of you. Francois, we love you.
Je t'aime aussi.
She doesn't speak Italian. How are you doing?
Thanks.
That's all right. Not off to Kempton Park at the 3 o'clock. I was trying to place a bet before the show, but I ran out of time. As soon as the show's finished, I will be placing a bet there. Rosemary Jessup in the colours of Her Majesty there on the far side there, coming under some pressure now. Coming under some pressure from Fred Winters, coming out of Fred Winters. Was my life growing up with my dad. Morning, off now from the horse racing. Listening to you before watching a certain, 3 o'clock, Kempton, come on. I'm putting money on it.
Francois says, merci, mes enfants.
Marcin, Monsieur Gonzalez Baez. Hi, Martin. Martin Sinning, the great Martin Sinning, who is the fabulous brand ambassador for Gonzalez Baez, does those amazing tastings at the Soho Whiskey Club. Greetings from snowy Poland. I will see you in the Soho Whiskey Club next week. Excellent. Excellent. How absolutely marvellous would that be? Oh God! What is this? What the hell's this? What about?
Oh my!
Oh jeez! Oh good God!
To anyone, by the way, listening and just hasn't seen that message, Chrissy was referring to this story about an infant that was
weird.
Oh, has it?
Yeah, it's got all sounds like you're just in a room.
Oh, I am in a room.
So why can't I hear you properly then, boy?
Oh, I don't know. Anyone else? Chantal, can you thumbs up? Can you hear me okay? Yeah, Chantal can hear me. It must be you. Anyway, so just so whilst Russ is sorting that out.
Hang on, I can see what's happening. Give me a minute.
Yeah, okay, you deal with that. Anyway, what Chrissy was referring to there, by the way, was she's talking about this story about just one of the many survivors was a tiny infant baby that was, I think, cradled still in his mother, who sadly died, didn't survive the debris. It's still attached in so much as that the mother, I think, was still cradling. Right. So ghastly, horrible story. But look, I mean, at the same time, story of survival. At least the baby, thank God, is okay. So.
Let's just take a little bit of light. No, I can't take any more of this. Well, that was a Killer Kane impression of the great Peter O'Sullivan. Good afternoon, everybody, from Kempton Park. A full card of racing this afternoon. That's all I grew up with. My dad was such a huge.
It does explain an awful lot, doesn't it? Let's be honest.
Dad was crazy about the horses and the money. Oh, Jesus. So before you had remote controls or anything, and it was all black and white TV, my dad would pile one TV on top of another TV so he didn't miss any of the racing. They were.
Did your father misunderstand the expression a stable diet?
Who, my dad?
Just wondering. Just putting it out there.
Okay.
Emma Webb, we love you too, Francois.
He would have hated this.
Emma Webb is expressing her undying love for Francois Pascal. We love you too, Francois. You know that. She's put 5 kisses in a row, so she must be serious. And she signs it off
her
saying...
finger got stuck.
There's that as well. It's true, actually. In sticky keys. And she signs it off by saying... She signs it off saying, moi, folks. Isn't that nice? What's wrong with you? Have we lost him?
Everything's wrong with me. No, everything's wrong with me. Time now to, thank God, inject some intelligence, some elegance.
Hey, I've been here half an hour.
Some, not you, you fool. Some sophistication, some actual knowledge. It's my +1 cinema chum, as I now call her, Chantal Rickards OBE.
Well, hello. How are you? I think you're in a bad mood, Russ. We've got
No, I'm not. I'm actually in a fine mood. I'm in a very good mood.
Seriously.
I look at
You
the world
basically
and I go,
started off this program wishing me dead.
I did not wish you dead. I did not wish you dead. If I wish you dead, then I won't be able to go round to your parents for a Friday night dinner. So stop it. Right. Now then, hang on. I wanted to play oh God, hang on. I gotta find it now. I gotta find it. Give me a minute. Here we go. Hang on. There we are.
Ooh, that blew the eardrums off. Good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I cranked it up a bit. I did crank it up.
Crank it up. And the most important thing is no one noticed. Leslie Ian Jones says, Phil, the man who puts the Fed in fedora.
I don't understand that.
How do I put Fed in fedora? I don't get it.
No,
maybe you're well fed.
Fed
yes.
up. Fed all the federal authorities.
All about your lovely bread on a Friday.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that earlier this week because as I was on my sick bed thinking, how should I pass the time without dying? I thought, well, I know, maybe I'll get up and make some cholera or something like that.
Yeah.
Which of course I used to do. Anyway, I thought about it and I thought the effort that goes into it. I thought, now I'll just lie here and watch TV
I'll
instead.
just lie here and feel miserable. And try and not answer the phone when Russ calls to see how I am because it makes me
on the plus
worse.
side. On the plus side, though, yeah, I know. Well, most people were wishing me better, not dead. But anyway, but at least, and I just on the plus side.
Dead. You don't.
Next stop, Bushy. Anyway, what are you, a bus conductor? Right. Anyway, for crying out loud.
Oh God.
Make sure you tap your card before you end up in Bushy, otherwise you owe them money. Right now, look. I was saying that with the good thing, the only good thing about sort of being on the sick bed is it actually has given me a bit of time to watch some TV this week. Would you believe it? So I feel like I can actually knowingly join in this conversation now.
Oh, good. I'm very well. Why don't we start with you then, Phil?
Well, have you caught the new ITV period drama Hotel Portofino?
Well, funnily enough, it is. I normally have at least 5 or 6 shows, depending on how quickly we rattle through them up on my screen.
You normally get through about one.
No, is definitely there, but actually it's at number 6. So why don't we?
Not half pop pickers, all right.
Bump it up a bit.
Tell us what you think.
Denise Welsh.
I've only caught
his son. That's Denise Welsh's son in Hotel Portofino.
It is Denise Welsh's son.
Oh, because I know Judi Dench's nephew, I think, is also in it as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a chap in there called Oliver Dench, and he's her nephew.
Someone who once served Judi Dench was next to her in the queue in Sainsbury's.
Indeed. So you're right. Louis Healy, who is the son of Denise Welsh, and Tim Healy, the actor, plays the bellboy in Hotel Portofino, which is, I think, a 6-part drama on ITV. But tell us what you think.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. So the 6 parts are actually now available to watch if you want to on the streaming service ITV Excrement. But at the same time, I would say I'm going back to the old-fashioned way of doing it, and I am watching one. No, I am doing the old-fashioned way. I am watching one a week because I quite like the suspense. I don't want to. I think this world we live in of instant gratification, you don't actually have the chance to soak in what you've seen. And my mind's eye, that's just like watching a 6-hour film. Who the hell wants to watch a film for 6 hours? So I'm not binging.
Stupid filmmaker who can't make a film for under 3.5 hours these days.
Well, quite. I'm not binge watching it. I am watching it for a bit. So I've only seen the first one. I believe the second episode will be viewed on ITV this Sunday evening, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But as I say, they are all available now to watch on the streaming service if you'd rather. But I quite like it. The premise, in case you're unaware of it, is it's set in the 1920s, I think, the early 1920s, of where there is a British expat who's moved to Italy to set up a hotel there, and it's just basically about how she sort of deals with any sort of twists and scandals surrounding her family.
Crossroads with sunshine.
Yes, I tell you what, it's a little bit like the 1920s love child of El Dorado and Fawlty Towers. So do what? Sorry.
Oh dear.
He's Siberian hamster.
Siberian hamster. All right.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's Natasha McAlone is the sort of chatelaine, as it were.
What does that
head
word
honcho.
mean?
Yeah, the woman who runs the hotel. And clearly there's lots of, toings and froings and comings and goings and all sorts of intrigue. And are they going broke or not going broke? Have they got the right people staying in the hotel? I think the Germans or the local fascist Italians.
Yeah, I was going to say it's more like the Stalin followers, isn't it?
Exactly.
Are they down at the swimming pool by sort of 5 a.m. with the beach towels?
No, we've had one swimming sequence so far, but we haven't done any beach towel fights yet. It's filmed in Croatia, for those that actually want to know a bit about it. Portofino, of course, is in northern Italy. Croatia is not in Italy, but it's a dead ringer for Italy. So they filmed it all in Croatia last summer, I think. And I've seen episode 1. So far, so good. Don't know whether it's going to improve or not, but we will see. So
I distinctly remember when I saw Downton Abbey, the first episode, I thought this is terrible. Honestly, I didn't like the first episode at all. And it took a while to get into it. And now I'm absolutely gutted it's finished. So I do think that you have to build on these things.
It was just an hour of complete nonsensical escape. I loved Downton Abbey. It was marvelous.
Not the first hour. I love Downton Abbey, but what I mean is not I didn't like the first episode. So I feel like you do have to get into the swing of it. And I'm hoping that will be the same with Hotel Portofino. But I also watched it to coincide with the rerun of watching Mr. Selfridge. I watched all 4 series throughout the last week.
What?
I loved Mr. Selfridge.
Yeah.
What?
No, that was worth watching. I mean, it was very soapy, but deliciously soapy, and I thought it was rather good. And Jeremy Piven, who is an American actor, who anybody's watched Entourage, they will know him as Ari.
Oh my God! Yeah. I love that character. I love that character in Entourage. That's my favorite.
Absolutely brilliant.
Fantastic. If you've never watched Entourage,
he
plays
based on a real life American agent called Ari Emanuel, who is the most famous American agent.
He's a monster in the world. It was fabulous. And you sit there going, I wish I could be like that. That would be great. He cut through some. Mr. Selfridge was absolutely marvelous. Absolutely marvelous. Shall we discuss the film that you very kindly invited me to see?
Let's jump to my third choice of the week, which is slightly further down the screen than where I am now. So yes, Russ, you and I were lucky enough to go to a BAFTA screening.
Well, I was lucky thanks to you. I have no say in the matter. I accepted your very kind invitation.
Not at all. Thank you for coming. So off we went, the two of us. We actually got to the right cinema just about at the right time. They actually held the film.
It is like Russian going to see a BAFTA screening with Chantal Rickards OBE is like Russian roulette. You have no idea what the bloody hell you're going to see. You don't know if you're in the right venue. You don't know if you are in the right venue, you're going to see the right film. You have not a clue. It's a mystery. It's fabulous.
Except for the fact you were late. Can I just put this out there? I knew where I was going. And you were having a sneaky cigar in the West End somewhere.
No, anyway. Here's the thing, just to put this into perspective.
You see what happens when you invite the wrong person, Chantal, don't you?
Film you next.
No. God's sake, you sit there. He brings a barbecue to the cinema, but the whole thing. More sausages, anybody up this road? That's what he does. No, this was really embarrassing. I'd looked at the emails that you sent me, and it said 7 o'clock. So I thought, I am so early, so it said, I'm going to find that thing and I'm going to say. Anyway, so I was so early in town. I popped into a little sushi place and just sat there as the thing went round and round, like a Hornby train set. And I thought, right, oh God, I thought I'm still early. I know. I'll pop into the
Wait, hang on. Did you actually eat anything, or did you just watch the sushi go round?
The thing go round.
Is this your idea of a night's entertainment now? This is what happens. You get to a certain age where actually you just enjoy watching plates of sushi go by. Thinking, it's a little bit like a cross between the Generation Game and Bullseye. This is what you could have won.
I was still early. So I thought I need to lose. So I'm going to pop into the Soho Whiskey Club.
Oh, is it that exciting for you? I can't cope with this. All of this excitement, the sushi.
I was just enjoying a whatever the hell I was, a Glenfarclas 10, and I get a message. No, it is 6:30 start, definitely. I look at the clock, it's 6:25. So I Usain Bolt it across, and I'm barging through. It was awful. I get there, they held up the screening till I got there. Thanks to Chantal. They didn't start till I actually sat down. Well, sorry to everybody that I inconvenienced. It was my fault. There you go.
So
Anyway,
what
the film is...
After all of that, what was the screening?
We'll get there eventually. Good God.
The importance of being punctual.
Yeah, well, next time.
Hours early. I had hours to kill.
I'm going to invite you half an hour early for next Tuesday.
God.
Anyway,
Right.
we went to see a film because I'm trying to catch up with all the last films that I haven't yet seen in the BAFTA, voting period.
227 of them.
Yeah, 227. Voting finishes on Valentine's Day. So don't forget to get your cards in the post, boys.
When's that? June the 5th or something?
Yeah, probably. Anyway, so I've got 3 or 4 films that I absolutely have to see between now and next Tuesday. One of those was a film called Amsterdam, which somehow I thought I'd seen at the beginning of the season, and I hadn't. It was a complete surprise. Hadn't read up much on it at all. If anything, actually, I hadn't read up on it because I'd confused it with a different film. Anyway, so we get there. It's a film by David O. Russell, who did Silver Linings Playbook, if you remember that, and Joy. I mean, a very interesting American writer, but hasn't written anything for 7 years and has suddenly come up with this. And it's based on a true story. And we've occasionally referred to, and especially when I was talking recently about the TV series of USA and the Nazis and the overlap between sort of fascist thinking in America in the 1930s. And actually, this takes us straight back to what we'd seen in that BBC documentary that I was just referring to about a real time in the 1930s, late
1933 it was that.
33, exactly, when there was a whole plan in place to get an ex-general who had been an American general who was rather fascist in his thinking, to get him to overthrow Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, I'd never even heard about this thing before.
Never heard of it.
It's put together in a rather weird way because it's slightly comedic. There's a bit of a thriller. There's a bit of a mystery. It opens with a woman being pushed under a trolley bus in New York, and you think, hang on,
Taylor Swift.
I mean, extraordinary.
Speak for the masses. I'm just saying. Out of interest, how do you feel about films like that, though? Because I think I can never work out whether or not I admire a film that doesn't know its identity, or whether or not actually I just think that it's ridiculous. How can you not go with the genre? They're all tried and tested.
Well, that's a very good point, Phil. And in fact,
thank you. I try.
Russ, you went straight home and looked up the reviews, didn't you?
Chantal and I both thoroughly enjoyed it at the time because you get the cast is so incredible.
Extraordinary cast.
Everybody in the world is in this thing, even in the smallest, tiniest little role.
I mean, it's Christian Bale and Anya Taylor-Joy, Robert De Niro's in it, Mike Myers in it.
Rami Malek playing as usual. I realised. By the way,
did you say Taylor Swift gets pushed under a trolley bus?
Yeah, I know.
How's that for your latest track?
Adele next.
It's pushed under a car.
You have a film where Adele. No, that's not fair. All right, okay. Yeah, she does. She gets pushed under a truck. The film. I went home afterwards and I looked up about the plot, which was true, and then I read the reviews because the film had been out, and the reviews hated it. Absolutely went for its throat. And I thought, you know what, I went along with it, but it didn't know, as you said, its identity, because the humor, I laughed out loud a couple of times, but some of it is so gory. I mean, really, really like, I actually shut my eyes at a few bits, really unpleasant. And the tone was all over the place, but it looked fantastic. And you got such huge stars actually eating the scenery. They're acting so. It was great. It was very entertaining. Yeah. It was very entertaining.
And there's lots of gory stuff where it cuts back to 1918 and the three lead characters who are a Belgian nurse and John David Washington, who is Denzel's son.
Denzel's little boy.
Christian Bale meet as they are, conscriptees who are in the American army, and they buddy up over in Belgium, and they're
in a unit. They're in a battalion which was it was Black Battalion, and they were known as what were they? I think they were called something like the Harlem. They called themselves something like the Harlem Hellraisers.
Yeah,
and you know what? The worst to me, the most
sound very 1920s, does it?
Well, it was. No, that's what they called. It was based. That was based on fact. There was a battalion that was conscripted entirely of black people.
Yeah.
And what was really awful, and again, this was in fact, they didn't want them wearing them. They were prepared to conscript them to fight for their country in France or Belgium, where the hell they were.
The Harlem Hell Fighters, apparently.
Harlem Hell Fighters, there we go.
That's it.
They didn't want them wearing American uniforms. They made them put on French uniforms because they were black.
Yeah.
That just summed up the disgusting hypocrisy of it all. But there we go. And as Leslie Ian Jones says, it was Smedley D. Butler, who was the highly decorated Marine Corps general who was involved in the real life plot. The plot wasn't made up. It existed. And they've erased it from history.
Really extraordinary.
Well, everything else is being erased from history, so they may as well keep the trend up. So.
But it was worth a watch. We enjoyed it.
We enjoyed it.
And what was the name of the film again?
It's called Amsterdam. It's just called Amsterdam.
Yeah,
weird. And did the two of you go Dutch?
Oh, so funny how we laughed.
Thank you. I'll recommend a good tailor to fit those split sides. There you go.
Very good. Very, very good.
Okay, well, talking about funny, I know you haven't got Sky, but I'm rather sorry you haven't got Sky. And maybe, Phil, if you've got Sky, you need to...
I have access to Sky, I think is the best way of putting it. I may have to go to another relative's apartment, but I do have...
His neighbour doesn't even realise he's got the feed going.
Oh, probably. Well, you need to see something called Funny Woman, which is a brand new series on Sky, started this week. It's a 6-parter. And I know that, Russ, you enjoyed Nolly, which was sort of going
Nolly.
back to our early entertainment career.
I love Nolly, yeah.
And this goes back really to around about to the 1960s. And there is a terrific actress, Gemma Arterton, who plays the part of a girl from Blackpool who is, gorgeous and wins Miss Blackpool right at the very beginning of the opening episode. And she works in a rock factory with her mum and her dad, and she's due to marry the local butcher, who's the local sort of good-looking guy, and she's the good-looking girl. And then suddenly she goes, to hell with all of this. There has to be more to my life than marrying the butcher's boy.
The stakes were too high.
Anyway, so she heads off for a life of entertainment, theatre, stage, screen, all of those good things. We've sort of think we've seen all of this all over, we've seen it before, but actually it's going to be worth watching again because I'm now at the end of episode 2. And Gemma Arterton is really good at this.
She's great, isn't she? I love her as an actor.
Absolutely terrific. And she shows her range because you see her going to all of these castings. You see the whole thing starting out in a disastrous way where she works in, I think, there's supposed to be John Lewis in Oxford Street or Debenhams in Oxford Street. And it took me very much back to my holiday job when I was at university of working in Selfridges. And she works in the hat department. And she talks about the hierarchy in the department store. So the girls in fashion were the ones who were much more upscale than the girls who you could just about sort of hide a northern girl away in something like that. Because it really wasn't good to be a northern girl.
My, how times change.
How times have changed.
Now it's terrible to be a southerner.
No one wears a hat. That's why times have changed.
Well, my grandparents lived in Blackpool, and they had a tiny little hotel on the prom in Blackpool. So I loved all the archive material that they used at the beginning of this to show you what the 1960s were actually like. Anyway, it's got good reviews, and a lot of people think they've sort of seen it before, but rather like Downton Abbey, you get so drawn into this young woman because she is so brilliant, and you absolutely want her to succeed. And who knows whether she will or not? We're going to have to wait and see. But I think it's worth watching. It's called Funny Woman, and it's on Sky. So if you can get hold of it, get hold of it. Yeah, it is. It's
good for them.
It's really cheerful. That's the lovely thing about it. And the comedy is excellent. It's been very well written. It's laugh out loud funny.
Oh. And the answer to Paul Claridge's question is Nolly as good as people are saying it is. If you enjoyed that era of television, if it has memories for you, you'll resonate with it. If Crossroads means nothing, you've never seen it, you'll kind of enjoy it.
So here's the thing, because I asked my parents about it because they've seen Nolly and they loved it. I said, well, I don't understand it because, I mean, the truth is that Noel Watts of Chops doesn't mean that much to me because I don't really remember that era of television.
Meg Richardson.
Yeah. And even though I've tried to sort of watch a couple of old episodes of Crossroads just to sort of, think to try and relate to it, the truth is that I'm not feeling it. So I feel like sort of if you were there, then maybe it's something that you can enjoy. But they did say that it could work standalone because at the very least it's a good drama. So even if you don't actually know the people it's surrounding, it's a good program to watch.
The fascinating thing, and I don't think it fully, it kind of touched on it, is I knew nothing about Noel Gordon whatsoever. I'm not going to pretend that I did. I knew she was friends with Larry Grayson. I thought that was it, right? And you realize what an incredible, groundbreaking person she was and what she achieved as a woman. But it was all overshadowed by her being for 19 years as the leading this awful soap called Crossroads, loved by 19 million people a week.
Yes, but at a time when there wasn't anything else on, remember? So do remember that small detail.
Even so, I grant you that. If
it was 19 million in this day and age, I'd say that's very impressive.
You get 4 million. If you get 2 million this day and age, you got
it's horrendous.
You got a major hit in your hands. So in that way, in terms of groundbreaking and being a woman in a very, very man's world, it's a very interesting piece of drama.
Yeah.
There we are.
Can I just throw in 2 pennies worth on something very quickly that I forgot that I've also caught up with or started watching this week, which I have never seen before, but I thought I'd better watch it just because I know it exists. I love the person who stars in it, and I just thought, why not? It's available to watch from the beginning, so I might as well. Patricia Routledge in Hetty Wainthropp Investigates. I've never seen. No, you laugh.
You've never seen it.
I've never seen Hetty Wainthropp Investigates.
Yeah, that's quite fun.
Oh, really? Okay, so it's available now. The whole series is on ITVX, and
the thing about it, which you won't know, but will resonate with Chantal. I don't think you got into the series. The little kid, who's like a little snotty-nosed kid.
Yeah, the guy who's like 16 or anything now. I can't remember his name.
He became the big star in Lost.
Yeah,
he was one of the big leads in Lost, who married. This blows my mind. That gorgeous actress who was also in Lost, whose name's completely gone out of my head. Yeah, I mean,
so it's Dominic Monaghan.
That was it, Dominic Monaghan. Thank you very much.
Is the guy who was the child in Hetty Wainthropp Investigates. But he then what was it? Evangeline Lilly.
Yes,
Lily.
He married Evangeline Lilly.
Yeah. So anyway, but the point is that I was going to say that with Hetty Wainthropp, I'd obviously heard about it. No, I've seen that from Paul Andrews. Hold that thought because I want to have a go at him. But at the same time, I'd obviously heard of it and knew about it. I like Patricia Routledge. It's really interesting, though, to anyone who knows Keeping Up Appearances very well. There are definite similarities in the way that Patricia Routledge portrays Hetty Wainthropp and the way that she did.
So my late best friend, Francis Maguire, who I miss every day, was a film director and writer and was directing Patricia Routledge. First day of the shoot, She comes on set, and he's the most charming, lovely man. Morning, Morning, Pat. Miss Routledge to you.
Oh dear.
Yep.
Whoops.
And he knew that he had a little bit of a problem on his hands for the rest of the shoot. But he, of course, called her Miss Routledge after that.
Oh dear.
Well,
look, I dare say I'm not excusing it, but there are some people who are very much of that old school mindset, and they thought that's the way this should be addressed.
If that's how she felt. That's how she felt.
Paul Andrews, though,
took him by surprise.
Speaking of taking us by surprise, Paul Andrews' message: "Do you mind, sir? Really? Don't worry, Phil. I just started watching Poirot for the first time this week."
Wow.
What? Good grief.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, lots of good stuff to watch there. But very briefly, that's the last story.
Oh, this is great. Look at this. You know why he's doing it? He's playing his things. That was some of the episodes were written by the great Anthony Horowitz, and he and Clive Exeter, who wrote a lot of the Poirot episodes, they'd have a thing to see how many times they could get Captain Hastings to say, Good Lord, Poirot, or I say, and they would do it, and the actor knew they were doing it to see. They had a bet how many times in one script can we get away with it, which is just hilarious.
But it has to be said, it's without doubt. Whatever episode, it just makes it as soon as Hastings says that.
Lord, Poirot, how did you know? Hastings, you see things, but you observe nothing. There we go. Right.
Speaking of Andy Horowitz as well, actually, Midsummer Murders, I've started watching that from the beginning as well. I had forgotten how amazing the first few episodes were.
Oh, they were very good. Very, very good. They're still great. They're still fantastic to watch. Those things which they kind of churn out, they're great shows to watch. Sorry, quick roundup. Chantal.
Quick roundup. Well, but just before we move on, quickly to say that when I interviewed Robert De Niro the week before I left Los Angeles, I said to his PR, should I call him Bob or should I call him Robert? And she said, Mr. De Niro. So I had to refer to him, Mr.
I just
De
call
Niro.
him God. I just called him that. Thank you, God, for visiting us.
Right.
I believed you all along.
Right. So very quickly, something completely different, but actually fascinating. I couldn't stop watching it. I was watching it last night. Is a one-part documentary, a 90-minute documentary that a lot of people will just be furious about from the get-go, and it's called.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
No.
But it's a fascinating documentary because you don't know whether you want to sort of hurl bricks at the screen, but it's extraordinary, and it is an extraordinary story. And she was 15. She left London to go and join ISIS. And this is the first major interview.
Can I ask you this? And I don't expect you to answer. I'm just going to throw this out, something for you to think about. The argument I'm going to be very, very quick about this. I've got this. The argument goes, she was a child. She was 15. Didn't know what she was doing, right?
Lots of controversy.
Okay. Flip that coin over. Greta Thunberg. She's a child, but everyone's got to listen to what she's saying.
Can I just say, you must forgive and forget. I know this is slightly unethical, and do forgive me. I need to trot off. I'm really sorry. So please excuse me while I missed the last 2 minutes of the program. I'm very, very sorry to do this to you. You know I wouldn't do it unless there was a very good reason.
The toilet. Bye.
It's not the toilet. Bye, everybody.
Bye. I know what's happened. Rupert's come in. Rupert Murdoch's walked in. Said, "Who are you? Who are you?"
I think it's the bailiff.
Why are my windows dirty? You.
No, I think it's the bailiffs.
It's the bailiffs, Rupert Murdoch, or Rebecca Brooks. Anyway, so that was my argument, and I've no one's ever explained it well to me.
No, very. And for those for our foreign listeners and viewers, you know, she was effectively expelled by the British when she wanted to come back. They withdrew her passport and her citizenship and said you are no longer allowed to come back to the UK. So massive controversy about it. But I couldn't take my eyes off the screen for 90 minutes.
And at the end of it, how did you feel at the end of it? Did it move your argument a lot?
Frustrated. And the fact that she sort of, I didn't like her, and I sort of wanted to feel sorry for her, and I didn't like her, and I just thought, you're sitting there in your baseball cap, and you've got
of course, because you want to look Western.
And I just thought, I mean,
you are an expert. Do you think kind of my last question. Do you think like the PR marketing team got behind her and say, right, you're going to wear a baseball cap. This is how you think there was that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I doubt it.
Because
Anyway,
we know how these things are manipulated.
Controversial telly, but occasionally that's good to watch.
That's okay. I mean, why not? It can't all be. It can't all be. Here's flouncy summer fashions and how to lose 3 pounds in a week. Chantal, as always, thank you for always inviting me to BAFTA. Thank you for finding time to join us on a Friday. Your comments today have been fantastic from all over the world. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll be back Monday. God, if I had a brain, it'd be dangerous. Until then, take care. Stay out of trouble. Bye, gang.